Boom, bika chow chow, boom, bika chow chow. What do you think about when I say self-love? Well, in this week's episode of the Change Guru podcast, I'm talking about self-love from the perspective of self-esteem. How do we learn how to really love ourselves? How do we learn to back ourselves? I'm going to share with you some great tips. That's what I'm talking about. No, it's not jade eggs, thumper, or boom, bika chow chow. Or maybe it is. The Change Guru podcast is brought to you by my books, Be Your Own Change Guru and How to Find Your Purpose After 40. They're available on Amazon, and if you like the show, buying a book is an awesome way to show your support for what I'm doing. And now, here's the podcast.
The Change Guru. Listen up. You are the guru of your own midlife change. Gotta take it and own it, don't be restricted by age. What's the number anyway? Live your dreams, don't hesitate. You're the change guru, you're the change guru. This is the time to step up, make your dreams come true. Whatever the change, it all starts with you. Whether it's life's purpose, relationships or career. Whatever the change, it's time to get what you want, what you really, really want. Make a change in midlife and still look really hot. Listen here, don't have fear. You're the master of your fate, you're the woman of the year. I mean it, change your life forever. I mean it, it's not too late, no never. I said I mean it, change your life forever. I mean it, it's not too late, no never, ever. Yeah, the Change Guru. All starts with you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Change Guru episode number 26. How to be in love with yourself at midlife. How do we fall in love with ourselves? You know, this is such a cool topic, and I'm so glad you're here because my intention for this podcast and every podcast that I do is to get you thinking about ways that you can apply the things that we talk about into your own life. I really, really want to make a difference to you. That's my purpose. I want to make a difference to the women that I speak with. I want to change the way we think about aging. I want to change the way we think about life. I want to remind us that we're not here to exist, we're here to live. And that's my intention in these podcasts. So I hope that I can fulfill my intention for you. I'm going to damn well try. Before I get to today's topic, let me do a little bit of business. Have you signed up for my newsletter? Come on, girl. If you haven't done it, go over to thechangeguru.net. Fill in your details in the opt-in on the side of the page. I don't spam. What you're going to do is you're going to get a free download journal, and through our time together, you got some other little freebies, some little gifts. And what I do is about every 7 to 10 days, I'll just talk to you via email about lessons that I've learned, things going on in my life, and stuff that I just kind of share only in email. So I'd really love you to be a part of my inner circle. I've got a great inner circle. We have really, I get really wonderful questions and comments that you'll be hearing and seeing more on the videos from my inner circle. So thank you guys for being there. Please join in. I'd love, love, love you to be there. Did I mention it's free? It's free, and I don't sell things on it, and it's really there to have a conversation and to be able to speak in a private way to share what's going on with me, because I think that we're not an island. You know, the stuff that's going on with us is something that someone else is going through. It's just a way to connect on a whole other level. If you need some book support, go over to Amazon and get my books, Be Your Own Change Guru and How to Find Your Purpose After 40. They're available in Kindle and in paperback. And this year I'm recording the audio versions of those as well, so you'll be able to listen to it in your headphones privately while you're just commuting. You can just be thinking about how you're going to have world domination over yourself while you're just moving through big crowds. Yeah. I'm also writing my third book right now. It's about gray hair. It's my whole gray hair experience, but it's not a beauty book. It's kind of the lessons that I learned about a whole host of other things during my gray hair adventure. I found my whole gray hair adventure had a lot of parallels to a lot of things going on in my life, including business, relationships, health. And those are the lessons that I talk about in the book. So I'm really excited to be kind of in the halfway stage of that. What I have to do, though, is I find I really have to lock myself in places where there's absolutely no Wi-Fi. So I've got my local coffee shop. I have to leave my house. I have to go to my local coffee shop and write right in there. But it's such a cool place. I did that with my other books, too. I just really have to get into an environment that is really conducive for writing without being interrupted. So that's my little tip if you're writing and you're working on something that you're finding it hard to focus, maybe just changing your environment, and especially going to an environment where you're not going to be interrupted by anything digital can be very, very helpful. Also, someplace that has good food and coffee and stuff is really good too. All right, let's get to today's episode, which is inspired, if you're listening in real time, by Valentine's Day. You know, I've never really been into Valentine's Day. In fact, every year it rolls around, and my husband Dale and I, we kind of look at each other and go, okay, we're not doing Valentine's Day, right? And we say, right, we don't do it. I don't believe... I mean, I think there's nothing wrong. It's actually a good thing, isn't it? It's like Christmas or Hanukkah or what's another holiday that we have? New Year's. They collectively get people to come together with the same frame of mind to celebrate something, and that Valentine's Day is a day of love, and that people celebrate it, I think, is cool. But for me, it doesn't make any sense, because I tell my family and my friends that I love them all the time. I don't wait for a holiday. My husband and I have our romantic times together. We don't wait till one day of the year to do it. So I just, I'm a little bit, and also I also find, this wasn't the case for me, but I also find that Valentine's Day can make some people feel really lonely and feel really bad if they don't get their flowers, or it reduces some of us, back to high school days. So what I have noticed, though, with this year's Valentine's Day, is that the conversation about just that, the idea that, hey, love should be all the time, and why don't you just celebrate your own Valentine's Day? That seems to be entering the idea of Valentine's Day, and I really like that. I really like the idea of not putting our worth on how much we are loved, whether we're a couple or not. I think that's just so important to be able to honor ourselves, and just to be reminded that it's completely okay to love ourselves. So I'm seeing a bit of that coming into the whole Valentine's Day thing, and that's what today's episode is going to be about. Speaking of love and stuff, there's a big surf competition going on in my neck of the woods right now. You may be able to hear like a motor going. There's a lot of trucks outside. I live right across the street from the beach, and they're having the Australian Open of surfing. So there's really some of the best surfers in the world are here right now. I went for a swim yesterday morning, across the street, me and Mick Fanning walking across the street. Mick Fanning's major star in the world of surfing. So there is a lot of surfers out here. So my husband came home from work yesterday, like around 5 o'clock, and he said, "Want to go jump in the water?" And I was like, I don't think so. It's a little bit windy. And so he goes and he jumps in the water, and about 15 minutes later he comes back. He's bleeding on his forehead. He got hit in the head with a surfboard. So we spent the evening at the hospital, the local hospital, where in the end he didn't need stitches, but it was funny too, because after several hours, finally the doctor comes to see him, and she said, "Okay, I'm going to probably give you about 2 or 3 stitches." And he said, "So how good are you at doing stitches?" And the doctor said, "Well, I'm actually a junior doctor." And so Dale said, "Well, this is my face, so maybe, we should get a second opinion about the stitches." And so they brought in the more senior doctor, and the senior doctor was like, maybe we can skip the stitches and just do a little bit of some type of Band-Aid type thingy situation that they put on in place of stitches. So that was kind of our Valentine's Day adventure. Dale will not be going swimming this weekend. He's a mad surfer, and it's a big surf comp going on, but he will not be surfing. They do have a huge concert going on across the street. It's on television and stuff. So what we do is we just sit on our balcony, listen to the music. It's super loud, or we jump in the water, and we'll be very, very entertained. There's a lot going on here. So that's what we're doing for Valentine's Day. Notice no roses, no chocolates, none of that kind of business, because love for us Pagets is a 24/7 kind of experience, and I'm not kidding when I say that. It doesn't mean that we don't have our arguments and stuff, but we really, really we love each other. We love our kids. We believe in talking about love and giving hugs and the concept of, the Course in Miracles kind of concept of there's only two ways to operate in life. It's out of love or out of fear. And I love playing with the idea of it. It's not always easy, that's for sure. But love is where it's at. And what I want to do is share 5 concepts about how to love ourselves more, because I think for a lot of us that were brought up in the 50s and 60s, I'm not sure about the 70s, but for sure 50s and 60s and before that, the concept of self-love was really confused with the concept of being selfish or being narcissistic. And we weren't really taught that it was okay to put ourselves first. Now, let me just clarify. I'm not talking about being a narcissist. I'm talking about backing ourselves. I'm not an expert on narcissism. I only know just kind of probably what you know about it, unless you're an expert on it. But a narcissist doesn't have empathy. A narcissist doesn't have compassion for others. The principles that I'm going to share with you right now are about, and especially if you at all have any guilt trips about putting yourself first, the principles that I'm going to share with you today are actually not only going to benefit you, they are going to benefit the people around you. They are going to help your family. They're going to help your colleagues. They're going to help people that you don't even know, simply by just applying them first for yourself, right? So let me tell you that these are also things that I practice in my own life. I could go on and on and on about it, but I've kind of identified 5 things that have really worked for me, and I hope they work for you. So the first thing I want to say is wake up. Let's wake up to the concept that we're here to live. We're not here to exist. Whether your life is an easy life of luxury or whether it is hard going, you're alive. We're here to live each day, to really, really enjoy each day. So it's weird. I think that because our Western society really avoids talking about death, really avoids the idea that of the importance of the present moment, a lot of us think that we have, we can tell someone we love them next week. We can do the thing that we've always wanted to do, when all the planets align and the stars are in perfect formation. I'm here to tell you is wake up now. We don't know what's going to happen around the corner. We don't know what's going to happen one hour from now. This is the time to make the call. This is the time to write that poem. This is the time to put your jogging shoes on. This is the time to put away that second glass of wine if it's been bothering you drinking. This is the time to say no to someone who asks you to. This is the time. It's time to wake up, because what you want to do is just know that you're never going to get today back. Today is all you have. Yesterday's gone. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Today is the only thing we have. So wake up. So you literally can say, okay, am I woken up? Am I enjoying right now? If I'm not enjoying right now, am I living right now? Am I figuring it out? What am I doing right now? What happens when we wake up? I think when we wake up and when we're living our life, we kind of lead lead by example. People see us living awake. Our kids see us living awake. Our partners see us living awake. Our colleagues see us moving and living and being really present, and maybe that reminds them. When you wake up, you know the priorities, you know what kind of needs to get done, and maybe that in turn changes your world and the world outside your world. So waking up, it's very, very simple, but it's profound. I mentioned on the last episode that when I was on the way to the Apple store and I was sitting there on the Manly Ferry at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was wearing my Levi's, and I'm just kind of, I think it was my, thongs, and was so non-corporate, and I was surrounded by a lot of corporate people who all just looked absolutely miserable. Now, were they all miserable? I'm sure they weren't, but just the attitude. No one was making eye contact. Everyone was, had their head in their phones or their devices, and it's just like, I think that a lot of us think it's normal to have a life where we don't have questions. We get up, we do the same thing, we just don't ask questions, and we think that our days are just meant to be spent, just like ants. So wake up to your life. Now is the time to start living your purpose. Now is the time to start doing the things that you want to do. Wake up. The second thing that I think is really helpful for learning to love yourself, and I should back up if I haven't said this about learning to love yourself is really about self-care. The awesome life coach Cheryl Richardson from CherylRichardson.com, it calls it extreme self-care. She's really based a lot of her life's work on the concept of extreme self-care, and so that's what this kind of love is. It's not staring at yourself in the mirror all day long and telling yourself how beautiful you are, and that could probably be, but a little bit that wouldn't hurt some people to do that. But it's really about just taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. And the second one is, I think, quite a debilitating thing for a lot of us at midlife, and that's to get clear on your good girl scale. Like, where are you on the good girl syndrome scale? With one being I don't have to act like a good girl all the time, to 5 being I'm such a good girl it really hurts. Where are you? What is the good girl? What does being a good girl mean? Well, here's some clues to good girl behavior. You might have a bit of good girl syndrome going on if you laugh and you smile when you're telling someone a real serious problem that you have. Debbie Ford, another awesome life coach who died about a year or two ago, described someone who had that kind of laugh as their shadow laugh. And you might know it. You might do it yourself, and it's that kind of laugh that comes out when you're saying, I've literally heard people say things like, well, my son's in rehab, and, he tried to kill himself the other day. It's just this weird kind of laugh that is really about anger and about sadness. So if you find that you do have that shadow laugh or shadow smile when you're telling someone a problem, maybe you've been told about it, maybe other people don't pick up on it, that's probably a sign you got the good girl syndrome thing going on. Another clue is you really regret saying yes, and you say it a lot, so to the point where you feel resentful. So you're the person that people always ask to do favors, and you always say yes, even though it puts you at a massive inconvenience, and then you just find yourself completely stewing over it all the time. Perhaps you feel really taken advantage of. You might hold in your feelings all the time. You just really don't express yourself, but you're absolutely seething inside. And perhaps this manifests in physical ways. You might choose something to ease the pain of it. So it might be some food or substance, drinking, drugs, bad relationships, somehow something to just quash the bad feelings that you have going on us. Another thing that will happen is if you've got really lousy people around you who completely take advantage of you, who are like leeches, right? Or they even harm you, or they just mainly are vampires and suck your energy. Something is attracting them to you, and possibly it's your inability to say no and just be willing to take it. Where do we learn to have this kind of behavior? Well, let's face it, a lot of us were brought up in households where we were told to be good little girls. A lot of us learned very early on how to behave so that mommy and daddy, wouldn't punish us. So we learned to not say certain things, or we learned to do something so that we would make mommy and daddy happy, even though it didn't feel like the right thing to us. We really learned to detach from what we need so we could make our parent happy. There's nothing that is outrageous about that, because of course you want to do what your parents say. Of course you want to get love and approval from your parents. But what happens is those feelings, those emotions, those lessons were taught at such a young age that they kind of get embedded into our systems. And it's only until we're kind of made aware of them, often at midlife, that we realize, Jesus, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing a very, like a little girl behavior. I'm acting like a little girl. I find it really interesting also. I know this is true for me, honestly, is that a lot of things that I think about right now that I want to improve in my life almost feel like stuff that's come up from childhood. It's almost like where we're at midlife, and perhaps it's an effect of perimenopause or menopause. It's just nature's awesome wisdom of making us go, hey, you're a grown woman now. Are you still taking on childhood behaviors? And the good girl syndrome is really one of those things. And the thing is, that good girl syndrome keeps on getting reinforced through our life. You might find it with work. I've seen a lot of good girl behavior on the job, where, say, I remember I had a colleague, and she's getting on top of her good girl business right now. It's taken her a while, but she would always take on everybody else's work just so the jobs would get done. And I think that you might see that a lot in the workplace. It's kind of like the A student, the really super high achiever, and it's like they're still living out or playing out a childhood role even in the corporate environment. How does this affect us health-wise? Well, I mean, when you hold stuff in, studies prove how this affects our cells, how it affects our organs. Like I said before, some people choose to the stuffed down emotions. They have to be dealt with somehow. They have to be soothed somehow. So then unhealthy behaviors come out to it, and then obviously your circle of people around you, people can smell the good girls who wants to participate in good girl behavior a mile away. So when you are able to deal with it, you'll notice that once things settle around, you'll have better people around you. You'll find you're no longer stressing yourself out by saying yes. You might even find you learn how to cry. You learn how to express your feelings rather than relying on shadow emotions of laughter and smiling when you really feel extreme rage. So how do we get through the good girl syndrome? Well, you can do it the layman's way. I think journaling is a really, really helpful tool, a helpful therapeutic tool during times when you have a certain behavior going on and you're just trying to get to the bottom of it, connect the dots on it. So journaling is a real positive one. Really examining your childhood. I find it's been so fascinating for me to go back to what was going on with my my childhood, which was really, really great. But I definitely had a lot of stuff going on that I think was across the board pretty typical for our generation. And I really, really love examining if some of the behaviors that I do are connected to things that I learned, or I was rewarded for, or I was punished for, or were no-go zones to talk about from my childhood. And they were things that was stuff I'd never really done until now, and I love it. I think it's so interesting. At the same time, that really helps me be able to relate to my own kids. Hey, I might have done this kind of thing when I was a young mom. That wasn't cool. It just helps me examine how I was with my own kids, and then in turn, I can ensure that my daughters don't feel like they need to carry on any good girl behavior. It's just about being, your own true person, but not carrying around any dysfunctional good girl behavior. So this is a way that can help not only me, but my daughters. If it's really heavy duty, I think this is a really great one to take to therapy. And there are therapists all over the world that can really help you kind of get some closure on still having to behave like the good girl. Another thing I want to say about therapy now is you don't even have to go and in person. You can get awesome therapists anywhere in the world and do calls via Skype. So if you do find that you need some really super professional counseling that really gets into the psychology of the past, therapy could really help. But if you find like it's a minor thing, just journaling and examining your childhood and being really specific and honest with yourself can be super, super helpful. And it's kind of like when you know something, you're able to check it and be able to say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. So that's the second thing, right? Good girls, get clear on your good girl sliding scale behavior. The third thing is bless your regrets. Last night, when we got home from the hospital, Dale and we were talking about some things in our life that have happened over the 30 years that we might have been able to consider regrets. And we're both people that have never really... we both know we've always... we're a really good team, and we've always made the best decisions that we could at the time. But now that we're older, we have more resources and more knowledge, we were talking about specific areas of our life where, maybe if we knew what we knew now, maybe we might have made a different decision. But we know we can't travel back in time. And while we didn't call them regrets, it was kind of more like, proof of our growth as travelers in this big crazy thing called life, that we would just make different decisions now. So, but I know that for some, the idea of past decisions is very, very haunting. I'm sorry about that noise going on. It can't be helped. Got a big surf comp going on. But the regrets that have been made in life can be really, really haunting. And I think one of the coolest things when it comes to self-care is finding a way to bless your regrets instead of saying, I'm not going to think about them anymore, move on, get over it, all that kind of silly stuff that people say. Instead, acknowledge your regrets and bless them. What do I mean by blessing? Well, there's really awesome rituals that you can use to say goodbye. And it kind of, again, comes to the concept of, in a Western society, we really don't know how to handle death. We don't know how to handle what we say when there's illness or when there is a tragedy. The words for us, we don't know what to say, and we're so uncomfortable with silence that sometimes we just think it's okay to just move on in life when there's no closure, there's no official ritual for saying goodbye other than a funeral. But if you have if you regret a relationship that didn't happen, or you regret something you said, or you regret something, whatever, there's rituals that you can do. And by rituals, I mean you can write a letter to your younger self and give yourself forgiveness, and then you can do a ceremony and either burn the letter, or you can, send it out to the ocean, or plant a tree. And I found a nice page, and I'm going to put a link to it on the show notes for this episode, where it gives a lot of different ideas for releasing, rituals for releasing. What do these kind of rituals do? I've done them before. They actually just help give closure. When you don't have a ritual and you've got a wound, they're like a Band-Aid, and giving a wound an official way to heal. So look at the things in your life. Are there things that you're carrying around that you really regret? You wish you could go back in time, but you can't, and it's got you on this really vicious loop of just not being able to solve the problem. Rather than wish it away, what can you do to acknowledge the regret, to bless it, to bless the person you were at the time, and acknowledge how much you've grown, and what kind of ceremonial way can you officially, give it closure. So check my show notes for the website. We'll have some ideas for you. It's very, very powerful. Bless your regrets. Why bless your regrets? For self-care. Well, when your close circle is constantly hearing you talk about the things you regret, they might get annoyed hearing you constantly talking about your regrets and not taking any closure. So I think relationship-wise, it takes relationships to another level. When you practice extreme self-care for yourself, it makes a person elevate along with you. It means that you can confidently enjoy the present moment and move on forward, more evolved. I think also it keeps you present rather than constantly looking backwards and over your shoulder for something that you can't control. You can always look at every choice that you make now and ask yourself the question, will I regret this choice 20, 30 years down the track? How will I look at what I do right now? And in a way, it kind of keeps us in that number one thing of wake-up mode. So this is good for not only our physical health, because we're no longer dwelling on the negative that affects our whole body chemistry, but we're also creating a positive energy around us, so we can really relate super well in our relationships, not only with ourselves but with others as well. Here's the fourth one. This one's so important. It's just make a choice to use new language about yourself, especially about aging and about the future. For example, stop with the I feel invisible at midlife bullshit. I did a video a while back about how that is just one of the silliest things that it keeps on getting perpetuated in the media for women at midlife, because the thing is, who are you invisible to? It's like looking for outside validation from someone else to tell you that you're beautiful, to tell you that you're important, to tell you that you're vital and whatever, when the person that you needs to tell you that the most is you. So I find that an incredibly disempowering language to be continually putting out there, saying I'm too old to do that, or she's too old to do that, or Madonna. I was talking about Madonna this week because I watched the Grammys, and in looking at the online comments about her, what she was wearing, because she was wearing this crazy butt sling, and her performance was a little bit meh. The comments were like, put it away, Granny, and she's too old, she should know better, no one wants to see that. And it's like, hey, stop limiting what people love doing, stop limiting what people want to do. Give everybody, regardless of their age, an opportunity to do whatever the hell that they want in the world. So I don't know about you also, but when I'm around someone who says, I'm too old to do that, or I'm having Christian Northrup in an interview yesterday mentioned it perfectly. She said, never say, I'm having a senior's moment. All those kind of things, our body really does take on. And at the very least, being around a person who constantly talks about how they're too old to do this, or having a senior's moment or whatever, they're not fun people to be with. They're not fun people to be with. But these are very demoralizing bits of language that actually our minds completely take on. And if you think it, you can be it. So this is a time to really get a handle on language. And I can say it's not easy to change your language on a lot of areas. And it's something that at first, when I first started thinking about the concept of it, I really honestly didn't take it very seriously. I was a journalist and TV producer for a lot of years. Words were my business. They're still my business. And I just thought, this is about semantics. It doesn't matter what you say. But then I started really paying attention to the self-talk going on in my head, and how much a huge proportion of it was a lot of negative self-talk. And then you start realizing other things in your life that are kind of, physical manifestations of the things you're thinking. And it was just a choice of, nope, I'm going to be really conscious about the things that I say, the things that I put out there. So at the very least, I feel like when I'm really conscious of the way I speak, and I'm empowering about the stages and chapters of my life, regardless of where I am on the scale of it, I feel like I'm setting myself up for success rather than setting myself up for some type of what a lot of people think is some type of inevitable decline. So this is the time to really watch the language. And how do you do that? There's so many fantastic books and tapes and YouTube videos about. I would just start off with really basic affirmations. You might recall last year I went through a process of just focusing on abundance. It was like a 100-day challenge of focusing on abundance. It's something that I'm going to go back to doing probably in about a month's time. I just have to wait for my schedule to clear to do something similar again. And I had all these different practices in place, and one of them was listening to a Louise Hay affirmation, 30-minute affirmation tape every single day, the same one for 100 days. And it was really, really profound the way my thought process started to change. And I also thought, the thing about it too is I already thought that I was quite positive in my thinking to begin with. So this was amazing in hearing how the importance of language. I'll put a link to that video on the show notes of this website too. It's a YouTube video. And so I would just, put it on my phone and listen to it while I would be doing the final part of my yoga practice, which is Shavasana, laying down kind of thing. That's how I would do it, or I would listen to it, put it in my back pocket and listen to it while I clean up, or listen to it while I go for a walk. But it was, I guarantee you, if you listen to that for 100 days straight, you're going to really see the importance of your language. And this is another one that kind of goes alongside of it. It's number 5, and it's future forecast. Who do you want to be 30 years from now? Really, really see yourself. Why is this self-care? Because if you look and you say, I want to be this kind of person 30 years from now, do you want to be sick? Do you want to be not being able to move your body well? Do you want to still be chained to any dysfunctional behaviors that are driving you insane right now? How do you see yourself 30 years from now? I'll share with you my future forecast. When I am 82 years old, I will be in really awesome health. I will have had at that time a huge body of work because I'm just going to continue to do this focusing on women through their life and the issues that are important to us as we move through life. So after midlife, I'll move on to my 60s and 70s and 80s. And by that time, that's 30 years. I feel like I'm going to be really at the peak of my game then. I'm going to have really awesome people around me. I can see my husband and I at the beach, him surfing, me doing my yoga. I can see us really loving every single day of our life at 80. In fact, when I think about it, I feel almost electric. Like I think I will feel electric when I'm 80. So that is my future forecast of where I'm going to be 30 years from now. That's not going to come by just luck or by just something kind of random. That means that I have to take care of myself now. Where I'm at right now, feeling good didn't just come randomly. It came from, decades of really doing extreme self-care for myself. So that extreme self-care will continue and get stronger and, more growing, more learning, more possibilities, just living my life so hugely. So by 80, I'm at that spot where I'm at. So that's the importance of future forecasting. Where will you be? Where will you be 30 years from now? And what are the steps that you can take to get there? And the cool thing about that is it doesn't matter where you came from right now. Imagine what would happen if today you look at that 30 years from now version of you. What could you do today to start working towards that version of you? Super cool, right? And of course, my God, can you imagine? I mean, if you want to know what this does for everyone else besides you, can you imagine how amazing it would be to be in your vortex when you are feeling really amazing in your 80s, when you're looking gorgeous, when you're teaching so much about what life, when you're working? Yeah, I said working. I totally intend to work till the very end of time. I'm creating, I'm living, I'm breathing. Can you imagine how awesome that would be to be in that kind of energy field? I mean, a lot of us don't have a lot of experience unless you're very, very fortunate to be around 80-year-olds all the time that exude that kind of extreme energy. So imagine what you would do to the world and how you would change the world simply by being the best version of your 80-year-old self as you could. Look, my number 4 thing of, just really loving yourself right now, learning to love yourself, is to choose to slay your dragons once and for all. What is the thing that's completely giving you the shits and really, really holding you back? The thing that maybe has always held you back in life. This one's really come up for me, and if you go and sign up for my newsletter, it's something that you're only going to hear about right now in my newsletter. I think it comes up, it's probably about newsletter 25 or so. So it's only for people who've really kind of committed to my newsletter for a while. But it's all free, but you just have to be on the list for a little while. But I talk about a final frontier for me, something that I'm really working on that is an element of my life that I really want to face down. I really want to deal with it once and for all. I kind of got through life not really dealing with it, and now I really want to deal with it. And why now? Well, I just really don't want to, when I'm my hot, awesome 80-year-old self, I really don't want to be thinking about it. I want to get through it. So whatever your dragon is, maybe it's you don't like being alone. Maybe you have regret. Maybe there's loss that hasn't been healed. Maybe you aren't living your purpose and it's making you crazy. Maybe there's a health issue that you really once and for all want to deal with. Maybe you're sick and tired of beating yourself up and not loving your body. What is the thing that you can do right now to start making peace with that, to start uncovering why you do what you do to keep that in your life? So choosing to slay your dragons is another awesome way to really start practicing self-love. And my last one, lucky number 7, is to keep promises to yourself. Through our life, we make a lot of promises to ourselves, So one day I'm going to go to the Eiffel Tower, and I'm going to do this and that, and then that day, before you know it, that day never comes. What are the promises that you've made to yourself? And what will it feel like to not keep those promises? What happens when we keep our promises to ourselves? Well, I'll use myself as an example, okay? I promised myself that I'm going to find my purpose. And I think those years that I was really looking for it, it felt so elusive. I just could not find it. I was working in a career that was making me absolutely miserable. Well, that sure didn't serve my family well. It didn't serve my colleagues well. It didn't serve whatever kind of energy that would be attached to the things that I was doing out into the world well. What would happen if I found my purpose and actually started giving in a way that was really true for me and honest for me? What would happen to my family? Obviously, my route is a good thing for my family. Obviously, it's a good thing for the world. I believe it's a good thing for the world. So, but that's a promise that I kept to myself to find my purpose and really get clear on what I'm here to do. And I think that it could have easily gotten left in the too hard box, and I could have completely abandoned the idea of trying to find my purpose altogether. It happens all the time. I could have so easily done that and not changed because it was easier to not change, and stayed in the same thing and just done that thing where I was saying, number one, of waking up. I could have just existed and just hoped that things would just kind of be okay and things would get taken care of, or I could keep the promises that I made to myself of trying to find out what I was meant to do in the world. What was my thing, my reason for being here? What was my point? And keeping my promise and sticking with it, even through thick and thin, has been a game changer for me. So a game changer, I'll add, game changer for me, game changer for my family, and my family beyond my family. So what are the promises to yourself that you've made through the years, whether they are little things like a trip that you've always wanted to take but you're waiting for the right time, or a decision that you've always wanted to make but you're waiting for the right time? The time is now. If you really, 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 really want to love yourself, how can you keep promises to yourself? So I'm going to run through all these one more time. 1 is wake up. 2, get clear on where you sit on the good girl sliding scale. 3, bless your regrets. Celebrate them and say goodbye with some releasing rituals, and there'll be a link to some ideas for how to do that on the show notes for this website, show notes for this episode. 4, make a choice to use new language about how you describe yourself, about how you describe age, about how you describe getting older. New language. Learn a brand new way of speaking and thinking about it. The next one is future forecast. Future forecast. Who do you want to be 30 years from now? See yourself, feel it, everything. And number, or I think this is number 4, actually. Yeah, number 4. It's number 4 or 5. It doesn't matter. Choose to slay your dragons now. It doesn't mean you have to get out the knife and go all Game of Thrones on it, but it just means start looking at it. Stick your head under the bed and look at the monster, look at the Babadook, and just go, hey, okay, what are you about? Let's just start, reach your hand out to the dragon and take its hand and figure out, what step you need to take to start releasing it and make peace with it. And the next one is keep the promises to yourself. Okay, so you'll notice none of those have anything to do with giving yourself flowers. None of them have to do with making yourself a nice hot bath, although those things are really awesome. These are deep down cellular level changes to make to really change the way you feel about yourself. And when you change the way you feel about yourself, your world changes. Nothing changes unless we make the change ourselves. All right, listen, if you like the podcast, if you got value out of anything I've said today, what would really, really help me is if you go over to iTunes and leave me an honest review. That helps so much because it just helps people find out about these podcasts. And I think that it's really, really important to get the word out about how to feel good about this time in our life and beyond. This only happens by getting a conversation going and by you leaving a little review for me and rating me on iTunes and passing my podcasts to your friends, to your family. Go ahead and put them on your social, whatever you can do to help me spread the word and get these podcasts out there. I'd be really, really grateful. It's an awesome energy exchange for us both, and it also, I think, really can make a difference. Come on over to my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/thechangeguru.net. That's a great way to make sure that you're connected with everything that I'm doing. And as I said before, get on my Change Guru newsletter. Also, a lot of the subscribers are sending me awesome ideas for future shows. And I would so love to hear from you. What's on your mind? What can I help you with? I am here to serve. All right. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Happy Valentine's Day, okay? I love you. Go love yourself. Have a great week, and I will connect with you next time. Bye for now.